Hey everybody, it's Erin Reed and we're going to play with painting some glass today. Now, I got these fun paints and I already did an unboxing video from Marabou, and it's all these paints are for painting on porcelain and glass. And this was my little demo one that I did, and it's now sat for 24 hours. And it says that it takes 30 minutes to dry and then 3 days to cure, all air dry. You don't have to heat it, you don't have to do anything like that. And this little piece that I did right here in the corner, the yellow, I did a really big giant blob just to see how well it would work if it was a big blob. And it is dry, dry, dry. And then all these other ones, there's some pens, and then we also had some paints, and then I have a paintbrush. Now, I went scouring in my jars just to see, what could I paint? And I came across this really cool jar. It actually was a rum bottle from Old Monk, and I loved this look they have all over here. I thought, ooh, that would be really cool. And then doing something in this space here and maybe here, because this is where the labels were. And then kind of decorating it up. So doing a very like Art Deco kind of bottle. And I have all these beautiful colors. I thought, well, each of these little squares could be colors. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to start with the yellow. And this is going to take a little while, but that's okay. And I'm just going to come in with the paintbrush and I'm just going to start painting in. And I'm not even going to try and be super perfect here. And just painting in little squares. I might have to switch to a finer tip paintbrush, but I'm just going to come in, and they're already kind of raised, which I think is kind of fun. And just coming in, oops, and like painting in little squares just like that. Some of them might be a little darker, some might be a lighter. I'm going to go ahead and lay this down just like this and just randomly hit them. Like I'm going to come in here and do some, come in here. And since I have yellow out, I'm going to do a whole bunch of yellows. And then I'm going to come in, I'm going to switch colors. And I'm going to do this entire bottle. So this is going to take a tiny while. And I'm not going to have you guys sit here while I paint this whole thing. You know, you don't need to hear me jib-jab about this whole entire scenario. But it was just one of those kind of... I've had this bottle, I want to say, for about 2 years. And yeah, I hoard glass bottles. I'm one of those people that I see something that's kind of like, that's kind of neat, that's kind of different. I'm going to keep that. I don't know why I do it, but every now and then I pull one out. I'm like, yeah, we're going to play with that today. This is going to be my thing. This is what I'm going to use. And it's kind of cool. So this was one of those bottles that was in my stash of all these fun things. Actually, this paintbrush, just to change topics, this paintbrush is working really, really well. Because I don't need it to be perfect. It's going to be so many multicolors. It's going to be kind of cool that there's some dark spots and light spots. And I can also go in, just to kind of show you the difference. I'm just going to put this down real fast right here. I have my craft mat over my black mat because I don't want to get it gross. I can go in with the paint pens now. I can also use the paint pens to come in and color some sections, just like this. So I've got a couple of different options. So I can use my paint pen. I can use the paintbrush. I've got all the different fun colors because I got some extra colors in the paint pens because I don't have an orange in my list here and I don't have the light green. You can also come in with the orange here, just showing you some options here. And just kind of painting in. And this again takes about 30 minutes to the point where you can touch it. And then it's going to take another 3 days before I could actually dishwasher. I'm probably never going to use this to put actually in a dishwasher. In the meantime, I am going to continue to paint all these little fun squares. I'm going to do the top layer first. And as the video goes, you're going to see me kind of moving along and getting further into this spot. But I'm going to speed it up for you and you'll catch snippets because it's going to get pretty darn boring. Just me coloring up a bunch of squares. You know, exciting. It's like, hey, you're watching paint dry. It's like one of those things like you're watching water boil. You're watching paint dry. Sorry, I gotta laugh at myself. Oh, all right, so I'm gonna speed this up now that I've made a complete fool of myself on camera. And I am going to, you'll see little snippets as we go along about how this is progressing with some of the different colors. look at what we have right now. I still have some gaps, and I know I need to go back and I think add some red. But one of the things I also read about when I was doing these paints is that you can combine the colors, and the pens are so much easier to apply. I mean, that is super fast, but they're also a lighter color. I can't get as dark of a coat on it. It still looks really pretty. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine a little bit of the blue, because I love blue and green, my favorite colors. And then I'm going to combine a little bit of the green. And I know I've got way too much paint than I actually need, but that's okay. And we're going to blend this together with my paintbrush here and create a new color. It's kind of like a bluey green. There it is. Kind of an in-between color, and it's just creating another color that I can add to. It's kind of like an aqua color. So I'm going to come in with that. Let me see what this looks like now. So, can I even tell the difference? Kinda. It's a little bit of a lighter color than what was already there. I can't, it's very, very faint. So you know what I'm going to do? Take a little blob of this over here, add some white to it. At this point, I'm just playing. I really have no clue. So let's see if we can get a light, kind of a teal color going on with a lot of white and a little bit of the color. Let's see what we get. Ooh, so that's very different than what I've had on there. So look at that, whole nother color going on. So just like any other paint, you can mix and match to create your own color. So this should look very different than what I have on there right now. So let's try that. Yeah, see, they look very, very different. All right, so I've painted all of the little squares. Look at that, that's pretty darn awesome. I think that's pretty cool. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm gonna start working on painting these two pieces. I'm just gonna kind of clean up a little bit. There's some spots like down here where the paint kind of dripped down. I was going for colors of purple, and I actually really like the way that this one turned out. It turned out pretty cool. And I also went with like a darker red, just kind of a different color of a red, just to give difference of colors, because they all blend really well. Nope, here's another spot I missed. I'm trying not to, I'm not gonna actually do anything with the bottom of this in terms of paint. I haven't decided what I'm gonna do with the rest of it yet, but this is gonna let sit. I actually have to go pick up my kids from school, so it'll give it that nice good 30 minutes to sit. I can also kind of take my finger and kind of scrape off, since it's not cured yet, any spots where it just kind of bled over into some of these open, like here's another spot right here. So drying time, and we'll come back and work on some more. I'm also gonna clean out my paint palette. All right, so I've let my bottle cure, and I've already started doing a little bit of painting of the white, but look how pretty this is. I can now run my hand on this, and it is dry. Now, I've been gone for about 2 hours, so it's had a little bit of time, but look how pretty it's already starting to look. Look at that. Isn't that cool? All right, so I'm taking the white paint, and I'm realizing it's going to take quite a bit to get the white, to kind of get the look that I want, which is a thicker coat. So I'm just kind of spooning it on or dribbling it on and then painting. Otherwise, it doesn't look like it's doing anything. So I kind of wanted to have this frosted look. So I'm just coming in and getting to all little corners. I'm going to end up covering some of this up, so I don't need it to be perfect either. But I wanted it to have a little bit of a thicker look than not. And this is going to be the back side of the bottle, this square piece. I think I've got too much paint. So I'm going to kind of keep, I'm trying to decide if I want this to be very opaque or want it to be big. I'm not a big fan of the streakiness that's happening on here right now. So I think I'm gonna start pulling some of this paint off. I overdid it. So I took off some of the layers of paint. Now I'm just going all and making my brush in the one direction. Trying not to leave like streaky lines or like big beads, I think I should say is the best way to describe it. I'm going down in one nice solid motion. You're going to see the lines in the brush. I don't think there's any way around it using this particular brush. But I wanted it to look like there was something there. Almost like it was a little frosted. Then I'm just taking my finger and kind of cleaning up the edges. Okay, for the front, and I think I'm going to do the top, I'm going to use the black. So I'm just taking a little bit of the black here. And again, I don't want to overdo it. So I want to come in, go around the edge here. I don't want to have big, see, like there's this big streak kind of like where the paint is. I really want to make sure I kind of get in here, and it's going to get cleaned up eventually. So go around the edges. Just make it a nice kind of a coating on here. And so again, this is the front of my jar, and we're going to put something on here. I'm not just going to leave it blank. I just haven't decided what yet. I gotta decide. That's going to be the hard part. I'm also going to do the same thing up to here, around here, and paint the entire top of this as well. So it's kind of pulling up the color that was under there from the white and almost created, I let it dry and do a really good, almost like a, like a primer. It would probably coated it a whole lot better, but it's got this really cool texture now because it's kind of pulling the paint that was kind of dry, but not 100% dry. It's really kind of cool. So I think that's what I'm going to do for the top as well, is I'm going to add just a little bit more, just to make it a little more of a black color on the top. Because right now it's almost looking kind of grayish, and the bottle itself was not a complete white. It did have kind of a gray tone to it, but I'm liking the little bit of the darker color on there. It's kind of fun. So I'm just adding a little bit more of a color. I'm just saying to this, add another layer of color to this, and then we're gonna let it dry for a while. All right, so everything has cured up now, and I found these really kind of cool pieces. I've been dying to use them, and I just have never found the right project. So I'm gonna kind of leave this as is. I'm gonna look how cool that is. I'm just in love with this bottle. So gorgeous. It's funny how you create a project and you really get into it and you're just really loving it. That's how I'm feeling about my little bottle right now. But I want something to be kind of like the focal point in the center, and then I want to leave the sides blank, and I want something for the front, and I'm going to leave the black blank, the back, not black. I'm going to leave it blank because you're really only going to see the front of the bottle. And I know this isn't super clean looking, but it's going to have something on top of it, so I'm not too worried. Now, these pieces came from Relics and Artifacts, and I've been hanging on to them for a little while, and I thought that looked so cool, but I don't want to leave it white. So I actually tested on the back what it would look like using the same paints, and I like the blue. Blue's my favorite. It's my go-to color. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this piece blue, and then this piece, because it looks like it's a flame, I'm going to do a mix between the red and the yellow paint. So I'm just going to go ahead and speed that up. I also, on this piece, took some pliers and pulled this out, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pull this piece out because I don't want to use that part. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this whole thing with the blue paint, get it nice and blue. And just, this is a, what is this? This is a cast. It's a plaster cast. So I know this is supposed to work on porcelain. I figure, well, plaster's pretty darn close to porcelain. Why couldn't it work? So I'm just doing a rough coat on here. And then I'm going to try and make sure, sorry if you hear some background noise, it's kids are watching some TV. So I'm going to quickly, I'm cool if I see some stripes as long as like the paint marks. As long as they're all kind of going the same direction, I'm fine with that. It kind of gives a little bit of some cool texture and just kind of some feel to it. So one thing about this paint, as I was reading about it, is they said it could be used for all different surfaces. So glass, metal, porcelain. I'm trying it on this plaster right now. So it definitely has some cool uses. So I'm making sure it's not pooling anywhere. It's kind of wanting to pool up against the neck, this little neck piece. I'm just constantly, I'm going to take wherever my paper towel went. I swear it's vanished. Ah, it's over at my other desk. And just kind of wipe off some of the color. I'm getting it all over my fingers, but that's okay. Come in, I'm trying to give it some nice texture. That's why I kind of keep going over it with my paintbrush. You can see those paintbrush marks. I'm kind of liking that. It's really kind of cool. So because this is a faster drying paint than some others, because it takes only 30 minutes before you can touch it, it's going to get to the point where you can't move it around and you can do some fun stuff with it because of that. That's kind of cool. See those texture lines on there? All right. So I'm going to switch gears and we're going to do this. Clean up my mess. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in with the yellow. Actually, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to remove this piece. So I just removed this little piece right here. When this rests up on my bottle, there we go. A little piece of it's gonna get, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna paint the back. Just so I don't forget. And then I'm gonna get all the sides. I think a little of my blue paint's still on here, but that's okay. I'm not too worried about that. It's kind of giving it kind of a neat color. I was going to come in with a little bit of the red anyway. So turning it a little bit greenish, but I'm not too worried. You know, all those nooks and crannies. What's cool about this paint is it's not covering up what's there, so I can still see all the details of the flame work, which is kind of fun. Really quickly open up this next one and kind of wipe off some of the yellow that's on here. As you can see, I already got a pretty cool kind of a yellowy color happening. And now I'm going to pick up some of the red and kind of hit that flame, get those colors happening on top. Might have to come back with a little bit of yellow too, just to hit those undertones again. I'm kind of pulling some of the color off. I should have let it rest for a little bit. That looks kind of cool. See? Just something a little different. I think I'm going to come back after this dries, because this takes 30 minutes to dry. So giving them some time to dry, so that way they don't keep kind of pulling color off. I think I'm going to do another coat and then we'll see what happens. Okay, so I pulled out some extra pieces now that this is dried, and I did let it go overnight, and I did add one more coat of the yellow on top of this and then let it dry. And then I went in and I found this really pretty little heart here, and I thought that was just super sweet. And I found some chain and then these little gems, and that's what's going to decorate the front and also the top of this. So the first step of what I'm going to do, get out my glue, and I like a fast drying glue for this, something that's going to have a little bit of a tack to it, so I don't have to wait, so it won't warp and wiggle on me over time. So I'm going to use my Helmer craft glue. I'm going to leave it open, and I have it upside down in my jar, so that way it'll always be ready whenever I want it. All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of my glue, come in here and attach it to my heart. And I have a whole bunch of these little containers that are full of these little embellishments, and where I've gotten some of these things, I don't even remember. I think these guys are a really old Prima product, at least 5 years old. This little guy I think I got at Michael's a long time ago. So I got a little cobweb in there. It's got to come out. There we go. And then I'm going to nestle this right onto here. And I'm kind of putting this on first because once I lay this onto my jar, even though I'm going to lay it onto my jar this way, I want to make sure that it stays nice and flat. And it sets where I want to. All right, the next thing is this chain is actually going to be wrapped around. So I could have done the heart last, but that's okay. So I'm going to take a little bit of my glue, and I'm actually going to have it coming up like this, and then wrap around all along the edge. So I'm going to start with this edge almost like it's being attached here, and then wrap it around. And I'm going to lay it flat because then it has something for it to kind of rest up against. And just lay it right on there. Come in with my next little bead of glue. I'm going to have to pick it up when I actually put the glue on. This, if you notice, this dries pretty darn fast. So I don't have to worry about it falling off because the glue's got a little bit of a stick to it, which I love. Let me come in, rest it up against there. Lay it down so it's got a good place to grab it. Doesn't take long, but I want to give it a little bit of time before I go to the next step, which is going to wrap it around. I'm also, while I'm at it, going to pull out some little pliers because I'm going to have to snip it as it comes back up to the top. And I think I'm going to put something right here. I don't know, I'm going to have to see if I like the way it ends when I end it at the top, or if I want to put a little gem right there. And now I can rest this and lay it and decide where exactly do I want to snip it. And I think I see exactly where I need to snip, which is right here. There we go. I still have a ton of this chain. I just thought I'd add kind of a nice feel to the outside of this. That'll look kind of cool. I'm actually going to use the back side of my, there we go. Paintbrush is the word I was looking for. You know what? I'm cool. I like the way it looks with it just both ending right here. I don't think I'm going to put a little gem because then it's just going to look too much. It's okay that it's an opening. I am fine with that. Okay, I'm going to push that off and let that sit. And now I have this piece. Now, I thought I needed to do something for the top. I didn't want to do anything that wasn't going to fit and work. So I have this ring. This is from like some 80s costume jewelry that I thought would fit really nicely right there. And it fits just perfectly. And it's black, so it goes with the color scheme. And then I have all these crystals. My thought process is to line this up with glue. And I tried to do it like by balancing them, and it did not want to work. So I have to actually glue them down to show you what this effect is going to look like. So I take them, and because this has got a little stick to it, they're going to stick. I'm going to actually do it. And I'm just wrapping them around. They're going to create a little bit of a sphere action is the best way to describe it. Put the rest of the glue on here. I got to do it fairly quick because I need to move these so that they make sense. I think I grabbed a few extra in case I needed to add more. But I think I'm going to have one extra, and that's fine. So now I've got to lay them into place that actually fit in a circle and make sense. Isn't that kind of fun? I don't want them to be too spread apart. I don't want them to be too... It's making it look kind of like a big flower. There, looks kind of cool, right? And then that is going to rest up top here, like that. Just like that. This creates this kind of fun border, but I gotta let that dry first. So while that dries, and the last piece that's going to go in there is this little stopper. I don't want to take away, but it's going to fit. So I gotta let these dry, otherwise they're going to keep pushing around. But this fits right in here like that, almost like it's a fun wine stopper at the top. So I have to have these close enough so this doesn't completely slide all the way in. So I think I should be good there. So let that dry. While that is setting up, we can go ahead and glue this piece on because this part has dried up a bit. The first step is gluing this guy down. So get a whole bunch of glue on here. And I'm just lining it up towards the bottom of the oval that's on the front of the jar. And what's the purpose of the jar? There really isn't one. It's just something pretty, something kind of fun to look at. There really is no rhyme or reason to this. Now I'm going to take the top part get glue. I don't want to do the very tip because it's actually going to come off the jar and it's just, there's no point. But I am going to put a little bit of glue right here. So these two pieces end up sticking together as they're on the jar. I'm going to turn the jar sideways so I can see it a little bit better. Lay it down. And make sure this is on here centered. Still a little bit of room to groove before I lift this up. There it is. And I love that beadwork on there. It just really finished that heart. That looks really fun. There's still some black texturing that you can see on the back of the black glass, which I think is fun. And then all the fun colors, and the colors are repeated onto the heart with the flame coming out of that. That really looks an artifacts piece that I painted using the same paints. And I love how this still has some texture in it too. So I think, yeah, that's good now. If it falls off, I can always re-glue it. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take glue and go around the rim of my jar. And this is the final piece that we're going to do right here. Really get it on there good. And this, see how I'm already holding the edges. It's pretty much there. Oops. So drop it. You know, as it sets overnight, it'll be even better. Get it on there to where I like it. Make sure it's even. And then a little bit of glue surrounding this guy. And he's going to get nestled, or girl, let's call it a girl. And then it's going to get nestled in there. I do want the flat part to actually face forward. So there. And I need to add more. This wasn't quite dry yet. You could use hot glue. I always burn my fingers though, so I'm not a big fan of the hot glue for that reason. So I always seem to have glue all over my fingers when I'm done with the project. Take this in and slide it. This guy's still going to be a little wet, but that's okay. So there it is, just like that. I got between hard and rock place, I got this guy that needs to stand upright and this guy that needs to stand. So I might have to pull this off and let this rest and then let this solidify. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to pull this off, let it sit right here. Let this dry this way, but you got the idea of what it looked like. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my glue to the top and glue this back on. But I want to make sure that this doesn't shift because that's the really big piece at on the side that you're going to look at. So thanks so much for stopping by and checking out my fun painted glass using the Marabou paints from Marabou. This one, they're meant for porcelain, but the information said that you could use it on glass, you could use it on a whole bunch of other things, and they did really work well on glass. I love that. And it was a little bit of a colored glass. This had a kind of a gray tint to it, and they worked fantastic. And also the pens. My orange pen seemed to have disappeared. Oh, it's by my desk. So thanks for stopping by. Supplies are all listed below for what you can find. Don't forget to go to all the other ladies that are doing projects with Marabou and in the DCC, and the links will be down below to go to my blog, and then that way you can click on all of them to see their projects. Please subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.